Hello, I'm Povilas. I'm a mobile game producer, and today I'm gonna talk about a mindset of clarity when you're working with a team, when you're even if that team is you alone, or if you're working in a chaotic project, which games, as you're about to see, get kinda crazy when you develop them, and this is more a light intro to your conference overall about what kind of products our QA has to deal with on a daily basis. So before, since as I understood, this audience really likes to ask questions, I'm gonna ask a few questions as well. Who in this audience in the last month has played a video game? Okay, much better than the last conference. Who played a mobile game? Yeah, that's about right. That's about right. And since I'm in a room of QA, which is awesome, I love QA. Has anyone ever tested like a QA'd video game or a mobile game before? Okay. Oh, okay. I see some hands. That's good. That's good. Okay, so let's go. I'm Povilas Katkevičius. I have been in the mobile game industry for 8 years. It was my dream to be in this industry. I never thought that I would get in, but I did. And it's amazing to now be able to speak about my work with all of you professionals from other industries. So thank you for the invite, Justus. I enjoy being here and talking about these things. If I walk out of frame, please tell me, because I like to walk around. So I've been 8 years in the industry. I'm a game designer originally that was kinda pivoted into a producer role. As a game designer or a lead game designer, I shipped 2 games that are currently active. Now they're under different leadership, but they're still doing very well. And those are Happy Clinic, hospital nurse management game, and Pocket Styler, which is a fashion game where you dress up, attend events as a stylish person. Currently, I'm running a 16 people team who are developing a new game, which I cannot talk as much about, especially since this is recorded. First, we'll talk about, because it's impossible to explain how this mindset came about without understanding what the industry is and what the pressure of the industry is for this mindset to come about. So a little bit about the video game and more specifically mobile game industry. First, I come from this company, North Current. We're 23 years in the industry. Actually, North Current kinda started the video game industry in Lithuania because there wasn't even a tax code for video games before that. We specialize in mobile casual games. Currently, we have 6 successful mobile titles. Our most famous one is Cooking Fever. If you have seen it, it's been live for over a decade. And cumulative downloads are around 800 million. We also do publishing of PC games and developing in-house PC and console games as well. But our biggest portfolio is mobile games and in the casual game genre. We're also, my CMO likes to mention that we're not associated with all the other Nords in Lithuania, and we're actually the first Nord, but that's neither there or here. Mobile industry at a glance. There's currently around 1 million games on the App Store or Play Store. Play Store is the Google equivalent, App Store is the iOS equivalent. there's around 3.5 billion players with a gender split of 45 and 55%, 45% being female, 55% being male, so everybody plays games. The industry, the mobile game industry, is worth 125 billion last year, and it comprises of around 60% of the whole video game industry. So when you're talking about video games, monetary terms, you're talking about mobile games actually, because they are more popular than all the other video games, even though video games get more hype with all the GTAs and Red Dead Redemptions and all the other things you know or do not know, and you know, you know. People from our industry really like this last number, and they really like to emphasize this one fact, that if you take the whole music industry, like the whole thing, and the whole movie industry, and put them together, this is how much the video game industry is worth. So all the Hollywoods and everything combined with all the music in the world. Okay, more numbers. So we're competing in a casual game genre, and these are the top 4 casual games by in-app revenue for 2026 Q1. In-apps are all the products that you buy within the games, usually in a free-to-play mobile game. So you download for free, you play, and you spend on in-game products. Now, these are quarter revenue streams, and as you see, the industry is quite big. These giant top 10 games are doing really well. A couple of points are, I cannot believe that after 90 years we're still playing Monopoly as a society, but I guess that IP is just never gonna go away, and kudos to them for leveraging our nostalgia and everything else to make such a successful product. And Candy Crush Saga is still going for 13 years. I think they're on level 5,000, 10,000, I don't know. It's something ridiculous. And there's 2 of them, if you know. There's 2 Candy Crushes, and they're doing similarly well. Moving on. So game development. Game development, how does that look like? How does that feel like, I think is more appropriate. So games have always been the forefront of technology. So we're always pushing the boundaries of what our engines, our codes can do to bring the most modern type of entertainment you can get. You know, the fidelity, the graphics, everything keeps getting better and better and better, and you always want to take the newest things. It's a medium of a mixture of art, storytelling, system design, and technology. So that's why you have all these different pipelines working together, which no other medium has this sort of mix of, you have to tell a story, but it has to be coded, it has to have all these rules, and you have to think about core loops and how everything merges together. And what that brings about is that games are usually created by a mix of very unique personalities, because you know, you have artists and programmers working together, and writers and game designers, and everybody, usually like 80% or even more, are all gamers. So they're all really passionate about the products they're creating. So discussions can get heated. There's a lot of opinions. So it's really a job of a team lead, a producer, to keep everybody on the same page, which gets harder and harder each day you're making a game. And also, games are weird in terms of that we're making business out of interactive fun. So you know, when you have a let's say, you know, a normal product, like you need people to get somewhere, or you need to bring them food, or you know, any app, or sell any product. With games, we're answering needs that people don't even know they have, so we need to sell the need for them, or we need to answer a need that is very weird or specific. So for example, you know, if a person needs to be an underwater space pirate dog, then we have a game for that, you know, like So we're always creating experiences, and experiences are a weird product because in development you don't know if you're actually answering a specific need, especially if you're innovating something, if you're creating something new or exploring a new theme that hasn't been done before. In games, a lot of games do that. So, game development pipelines should be easy. You have game design. So game design is all the rules. If I have 5 hearts, an enemy hits me, I have 4 hearts. Or, you know, I find a coin, I have more coins, and then I spend those coins. All the rules. Then that game design is sort of split off into art and programming. So artists, they start drawing the visual assets. Programming starts to program the code that it actually works according to the game design. Then it goes back to game design for implementation, testing. It's fun, cool, put it in the build. You have like 30 features or so. You stagger them on a Gantt, and easy. You're done. In game, ship. What usually happens is more like this. Because your game design is wrong, or you test and it's not fun, or the App Store rules change and you need to remove something, or management has a different idea on the direction that your game is going, or outsource pipelines break down, or they start producing too much art or too little art, or then you test something and you say to the programmers, hey, we need to change this value, but then the animation doesn't match, so you need to go to art, and they say, but then we cannot change the animation because we have to redraw a couple of layers. So usually it looks like this. There is no Gantt for this, and you're usually in the middle of it, in the thick of it, trying to solve. So I could tell like 100 examples of what kind of problems we try to solve. But for example, for this new game that we're developing, we had a plan to do a control scheme. So just simple, you control the character. A billion times done in many games. You just move on the screen. You move the character on the screen. That's simple. On tops, we planned it will take us a month, maybe 2 months, and we're gonna code it, we're gonna test it, it's gonna be fine, we move on. We have a moving character on the screen. It took us, I think, a year or more to get it down. 3 different playtests, changes, iterations, interactions, and while that is stuck, everything else is stuck because you don't know where to put the camera. You don't know how the zoom level is. You cannot balance the levels because you don't know how fast the character is moving. You don't know how fast he will interact, so you cannot balance actions appropriately. Another discussion we had was while developing the fashion game. For example, can we let the players create ugly avatars? It's a real discussion. Can we or can we not? It split the team, the company, just straight down the middle, because some people are very passionate about it. Of course, you should let people be ugly in their avatars. It's fine. It's subjective. You do what they want to do. Look at Sims. People are green with giant noses. Just let them do it. The other one, no, we should still help players and guide them to a more aesthetically pleasing look, if you say so. So at the end, we decided it was sort of kind of maybe so, maybe not. That was the final decision, and that's what currently is implemented in the game. And in all of this, we have from this new game, for two last stories, because we have, for example, a telephone in this new game, and just recently we implemented an invisible telephone within the telephone because we couldn't solve a problem, and the only solve was we put another phone in the phone. It's invisible, but now we can interact with it the way we want to interact with it. And in all of this, I was being in this chaos, thinking of how to solve it. One thing is I then think about like other companies, like this cannot be real. Anyone else doesn't solve these kind of problems. But then, you know, like this game Fallout 3, huge game, huge company, big budget, you know, AAA production quality, and they had a problem. They couldn't. Their engine did not support vehicles. They cannot. They wanted a train. They cannot program a train, but they could program NPC characters, like models, non-playing characters. So those they have, and they can make them run very fast, right? Right? And those characters can wear clothes, right? Right? So what if we put a hat that's a train on the character? So currently in that game, there's a guy under the train, wearing a train, under the train, wearing a train, and running really fast under the tracks, and that's how they put the game. I just wish that developers didn't tell QA about this, and then the QA just sort of discover and go like, okay, guys, we found a guy. We found a guy under the train. He's running fast, and yeah, and then the devs go, yeah, that's our train. That's how we made it. That's the train. So then I started to think, how can I approach this? So I'm originally a game designer, so I really like to look at problems from like a game design perspective. So let's look at this from a game. And there's this very cool game design method that mid-core games use. Casual games, unfortunately, don't use it, but not so much. But I thought, hey, I could probably apply this because I really like this. So basically, if you have a simple game that you have heroes and they have power score, and you have player motivations, milestone completion, competition, cooperation, strategic planning, and you have like all these progress vectors that you have, like, you know, buildings and relics, equipment, and hero levels and whatever that comes in a regular hero game. So what you have is each of these has a power score, and it combines into a single hero power score, like a single power vector. And in game design terms, this is really cool because you can then monetize each segment separately. You can reward players with each segment separately, and they really always get the motivation because it increases that single power vector. And I was like, okay, so what is that power vector for a producer? You know, what could I find that could help me like think in this single variable type of mindset? And you know the answer because that was the first slide. It's clarity. It's clarity. So I sort of transposed a project onto this. So you have milestone completion, successful launch, team growth, profit, and you have that single point that if you keep increasing and always making it grow and be better through various segments of your project, which can be whatever, but in like regular game development pipeline, you have GDD review, which is the game design document, pipeline setup and review, team meetings, one-to-ones, Jira workflow, sprints, talking with like QA department, marketing department, support, and all that. The whole project is segmented. Each of it has its own clarity. And if you keep increasing clarity in those segments, the overall clarity increases. It helps you achieve your goals. So there's two stages usually when developing a game. First is in development, and second, when it becomes live. Those are two different things. Like you're working with two different. Everything changes when the game becomes live, because you're sort of in development, but also sort of always reacting to what the player is telling you. So in development, low clarity usually comes from the team. In terms of questions, usually a lot of questions. We will get to that in the next slide. And high clarity usually comes from the producer. You answer those questions, or the team, you direct constantly, or data. But data only if you're not innovating a new genre or you're not creating something absolutely new. within the company or within the industry, because there is no data. You just need to trust your instincts, your experience, and whatever you know. What is the low clarity cost while in development? Usually it's slow momentum, bottlenecks, and burnout and psychological safety. Because if you're not creating that momentum, you can feel everything slowing down, stopping, and that's costly. When the game becomes live, low clarity usually comes from data, because you see data points that don't make sense, or you see spikes or drops, and then high clarity also comes from data with a little help from the team and the producer with interpreting that data and deciding what to do with it. Low clarity cost in live operations is very straightforward. It's money. It's always, if you lose retention, if you lose monetization, then you lose money. That's simple. Low clarity cost in development is also money, but has layers in between. So measuring clarity, it's quite simple. You always are aware of the questions. Question quantity, specificity, and repeated questions. So they start being very broad, like what will our art style will be, or what will our monetization will be at the low clarity spectrum end. And in the high clarity spectrum end, you would get like, if I use this brush stroke, is it still too much? Is it becoming a too indie game and not casual enough for the mobile game scene? So that these are already high clarity questions that you go. And monetization would be like, what will be our monetization on the low spectrum side? And on the high spectrum, it would be like, how can I leverage the difficulty of level 23 to sell this specific booster more? Can I offer an offer in this specific moment? So these are high clarity questions. So you always strive to end up with all these specific questions. And if you start getting very broad questions, that means that segment of the project is suffering from low clarity. Desire to postpone some questions. These you all heard before in meetings. Can we have another meeting about that later? Or maybe we'll just solve it somehow later, or it will just solve itself, or somebody else will solve it. You know, well, let's just not discuss this right now, because nobody knows the answer and we don't know how to approach this. Silence is a weird one, because it's sort of very specific to the situation. But I work in an open office, and I'm usually in a central position in the team. And you sort of get used to how the team works, and you get used to the sound that the team makes as a whole, as like an organism, and like the murmurs and the work being done. And there's moments where there's a different silence that you know that something just is about to go bad, or a question is about to be posed that you have no answer whatsoever, and that's an interesting one to be aware of. And for data lovers, Jira comment count. That's I did a retrospective on Pocket Styler once as a presentation, and I went through different tasks and selected just those that have the most comments, and those lined up to being the biggest pain points we had in the project. We had, for example, a DJ in Pocket Styler that we wanted to be sexy and manly, and whatever. At first he was a photographer, then he was a DJ, and it had like 100 comments with 40 iterations, and we still don't know if he turned out right, but he's in the game. You can go check him out and tell me, but because I don't know. And always ask for questions. So, clarity as the core goal. You identify a low clarity segment, you increase that clarity via answering questions, documentation, meetings, or whatever you do to get the question answered, and then you protect clarity. That means that's the hardest part, because you need to update that documentation. You need to prevent the same question from being asked over and over again. So that means workflow changes, or some very good system of updates to whatever knowledge that you are storing about your project. I just wanted to reiterate that clarity is not like a tool or use-all thing that will solve magically every problem. It's more of a leading theme or guideline in decision making. So if you are having a hard time prioritizing or deciding, low clarity usually really helps. It's not a measurable metric or a rigid rule. Plus, I really wanted to use this AI-generated clarity sword with a Jira ticket attached, and that's why I wanted this slide. But also, there's one segment that usually gets overlooked in all project developments, I think, and I wanted to just take a moment to also acknowledge it, that we're working in teams of people, and people have a lot of emotions, and especially in the video game industry, you work for 2-3 years on a project, and the success rate is I don't know, 30% maybe. That would be a good one. So you saw our 6 successful mobile titles. I think we had 30 or 40 in development, and 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and then you need to just throw everything away into the trash can. Somebody drew art for 3 years, lived the game, believed in it, and that sort of clarity is also something you need to work with the team, answering these sort of specific questions, like what happens if soft launch fails? There's 16 of us. Will there be place for us to move on? Will there, if we don't, where will I pivot? Will I learn the new art style, or will I adapt to a new engine, or how do we deal with this? And there's no answer until like soft launch or global launch, and you know that it's successful, because a lot of it is luck and market placement. And if we're answering the wrong need, wrong experience, then players won't play, they won't show up, or the monetization is wrong, and then we can't do user acquisition correctly, and then the game dies, and then you need to move. So all of this segment is sorta invisible, not talked about that much, but it's always there, and it always creates psychological stress, burnout, or bottlenecks. I mean, if you keep developing, then you can't fail, right? You're still working on something. So it's something to always keep in mind, people. Okay, and this one is a bit different. Once you get to a live game, what sort of problems do you encounter and how to solve them? First, an example from Pocket Styler. So in Pocket Styler, you dress up a girl, and you go to an event, and you are pitted against other players who are also dressing up for that same event, and other people vote who arrived in the event better. That's a blouse from Agne Kuzmitskaite. Had a blast working with her as well on a collection. So, as QA, right? The way this works, we put them in this voting screen, and there was a problem. Our voting distribution, like the score distribution, it was sort of flatter than we expected. It should be like a regular bell curve, but it was like a hump more. And we started noticing players complaining, like we're getting either very high scores or very low scores, but consistently. So the problem was we had a technical thing where the player is always placed in the same spot in the voting screen. So imagine what happens as a UX. If you look at your phone and you have it vertical, which side do you think the player most usually would get high scores on? Exactly, yeah, because people are lazy. People are lazy. Your right side gets 65% or from 60 to 65% more votes than the left side. And that skewed the results majorly. And we went to the community and we said, we're gonna fix it, we're gonna make it fair. And then the community said, no, don't fix it. Don't mess with anything. We like it. We like the game. We sort of know it, but we like it. but we did fix it. And then that community is very passionate, very loving of the game, and any changes is stress to that community. So they sharpened their torches and lit up their pitchforks, and sorta started reviewing us poorly. And then we had to fix our fix to make it back as it was, while still keeping it fair. So a bunch of technical workaround, but we created a problem ourselves, and then we solved it, and everything went back to normal. So clarity of user experience. Listen to your audience. If they're saying something loudly, you should pay attention. Clarity of user oh, trigger warning. Forgot. Too late. Clarity of user expectations. So one day, a team that's currently on Happy Clinic, they receive a data point that their retention fell 10% day one, which is a huge red flag, and everybody was scrambling around trying to figure out what it was. And our user acquisition department acts kind of independently, which is good because they can do fast work and test a bunch of ideas. But one of the ideas they tested was this. It was an ugly ad trend with ASMR pimple popping things. And what happened is the user acquisition cost went down. So it was a successful campaign. But all those users that come through this campaign, they sort of want this content. So what happened is the dev team would have to eventually implement this in the game. So without, like, this is how user acquisition decided the development of the game, basically. And then now we have in Happy Clinic these sort of games. This story is still ongoing, still measuring the data, because there's weird data points of revenue and yeah. But currently, it's still there. Bonus level. Quick look at AI, because you cannot now, these conferences, we have to talk about it, but gonna be really fast. Okay, so how North Current sort of kind of feels right now. North Current and the industry, but there's a lot of talk in the industry. It's okay to use AI as a tool, more or less. Sheet calculations, art concepts, narrative concepts, player-facing, like short names, implementation and development testing. Not okay, the final product. And the players don't like when game final product, so you have to label that you use AI in various platforms. And recently in the GDC, the Game Developer Conference, the biggest conference of game developers that happens in San Francisco, they usually run a yearly survey. It's like a 2,500 game developers from across the world. And they asked this question: does AI have a negative impact on the industry, on the game development industry? And 2 years ago, it was 80% that said yes. Last year, they said 30% that yes. And this year, after the survey, it was 55% of game developers that they agree that it has a negative impact on the industry, which is a big different story about layoffs and quality of the products and so forth. But it's a really good tool. I'm only talking about development pipelines. We also use it for QA, for support, for social, so for marketing and so forth. So we use it mostly as a tool, not as a final result. And that is all. The takeaways are clarity as a decision-making theme, a habit of clarity awareness, and low clarity costs time and frustration in development and money once the product is live. This is my LinkedIn, and any questions are welcome. I hope you enjoyed it.
Great talk, and for sure there are questions. So let's start with the questions. As you basically finished with AI, we have one question at the top with AI. So you mentioned how it impacted the industry, but what do you feel? Does AI lower the barrier to entry the game industry? Can non-developers now create successful games with AI tools and start making money from it?
This is one of the biggest conversations in the industry, actually. It did lower the bar of entry, and already the bar was quite low. Anybody with YouTube and a free game development engine can actually quite easily make a game without even AI. But you know, now art is easier, coding is easier of exact behaviors, and so forth. And it did lower the barrier of entry, but also it did not, you know, it doesn't mean we're getting quality games. So the output increased, so it became harder for people who are developing for a long time quality games to get noticed, because just by the sheer amount of you know, what the industry lovingly calls AI slop output is coming through in app stores and Steam and so forth. Yeah.
All right. Getting back more on the QA side, how does QA how does QA test games? Are they simply playing the game and getting money for it, or is there some structure behind it?
That's like the sexy myth of game QA. It's actually one of the hardest, I think, positions you have in our industry, because you first you need to learn the game throughout. You need to learn all the systems, everything that should be happening, and then as you go, you rigidly test all weird and not all usual, but also all weird player decisions. Like, what would happen if I turned on the game, left it for 2 hours on, came back, tapped this button while holding that button, and will that break? If that breaks, we need to fix it. And it's like, it's a rigid, long process and very meticulous, that you need to go through all the systems, everything else, but also play through the whole game as well. So it's a huge.
And also a high possibility that you throw it into the trash bin.
Yes, after all the testing, yeah. But without testing, we cannot release. That's.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions actually, but I believe we can cover one more given the time. So, from your experience, what's the biggest mistake studios make after game goes viral?
Okay, I don't. I think there was this game Among Us. You know it. Yeah, it was a weird success story where they developed a game, they released it, and for 2 years nobody played it. It was just quiet. Nobody knew about it, and then suddenly Twitch picked up the game, and it blew up. It became a viral sensation in minutes, and I heard like they had a really hard time of deciding, okay, so what do we do with this like influx of players? What features do we need to develop? So I think at those points you sort of really need to slow down and evaluate each feature with what it brings to the player, but also what it brings to you. You can't just develop, you know, oh, this will be nice to have, because, you know, it costs money to develop something, and if it doesn't have any return, so that's just bad business sense. But if you plan it correctly, you can develop, you can bring value to the players while also bringing value to the business as well. So I think slow down, evaluate, don't rush, just don't, you know, get into like, oh my God, we need to do everything now. You know, yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And there is a present for you.
Thank you so much. Have a good day, guys.